In the early 8th century, the Muslim Umayyad Caliphate was at the height of its power, rapidly expanding across North Africa and into the Iberian Peninsula. In 711, they achieved a major victory at the Battle of Guadalete, where an Umayyad force led by Tariq ibn Ziyad defeated the Visigothic king Roderick. This decisive battle shattered the Visigothic kingdom, opening the doors for the swift and near-total conquest of Iberia by the Umayyads. Over the next few years, the Muslim forces continued to push north, consolidating their control over the region and establishing Al-Andalus. However, the ambitions of the Umayyad governors in Al-Andalus did not stop at the Pyrenees. In 718, Al-Samh ibn Malik al-Khawlani was appointed governor, and under his leadership, the Umayyads sought to expand their influence into Gaul. Their first target was the Duchy of Aquitaine, a semi-independent realm ruled by Duke Odo the Great. Odo, having witnessed the fall of the Visigoths and the rapid expansion of Muslim forces across Iberia, was acutely aware of the threat posed by the Umayyads. In 719, Al-Samh led a successful campaign that captured Narbonne, establishing a foothold in southern Gaul. Over the next 2 years, the Muslim forces continued to raid deeper into Aquitaine, spreading fear and panic throughout the region. In early 721, Al-Samh set his sights on the Aquitanian stronghold of Toulouse, hoping to deliver a crippling blow to Odo's power. In early 721, the siege of Toulouse began. Al-Samh ibn Malik al-Khawlani's forces, fresh off a string of swift victories, believed this would be yet another conquest for the Umayyad Caliphate. With a cavalry-heavy army and the advantage of mobility, Al-Samh had been unstoppable in southern Gaul. But as the weeks dragged on, the 3 months of waiting outside the walls of Toulouse stripped away their advantage. The Muslim forces had become stagnant, relying heavily on the prospect of the city's eventual surrender rather than engaging in active warfare. Odo, Duke of Aquitaine, took full advantage of this lull. Throughout those months, he quietly marshaled his army, assembling a force of between 8,000 and 12,000 soldiers. Al-Samh, perhaps overconfident, did little to scout the area, assuming no significant resistance would come. This overconfidence led to his downfall. By early June, Odo had successfully maneuvered his forces south of Toulouse, cutting off the Muslim army's access to their supply lines and any potential reinforcements from Narbonne. Al-Samh, unaware of the full scale of the danger looming behind him, was about to face one of the most decisive moments of his career. On June 9th, as dawn broke, the first signs of trouble emerged. Odo's forces, positioned south of the Umayyad camp, prepared for an all-out assault. Odo, aware that a direct attack from the front would be disastrous against the formidable Muslim cavalry, struck from the rear. With the element of surprise on his side, Odo's forces descended upon the unsuspecting Umayyad camp. The sound of hooves thundering in the distance quickly reached the ears of the Muslim sentries, but it was too late. Odo's army smashed into the rear of Al-Samh's troops, catching them completely off guard. Confusion erupted in the camp as Muslim soldiers scrambled to form a coherent defense. At the same time, the garrison from inside Toulouse took advantage of the chaos and launched a daring sally, attacking from the front. Al-Samh's army, now surrounded on two sides, tried to rally under their general's leadership. For several hours, the battle was an intense melee, with both sides locked in brutal combat. The Umayyads, though taken by surprise, did not break easily. Al-Samh, despite being severely wounded early in the battle, urged his men to hold the line. Muslim soldiers, both Arab and Berber, fought with determination, but the combined forces of Odo's army and the city's defenders began to overwhelm them. As the battle dragged on, Al-Samh's injury worsened. Without his leadership, the coordination among the Umayyad forces began to collapse. Some units tried to flee, but with Odo's forces blocking their retreat to the south and the Toulouse garrison pressing them from the north, escape was nearly impossible. With their lines breaking and thousands of Muslim soldiers falling on the battlefield, the once feared army of Al-Samh crumbled. A small contingent of survivors, realizing that all hope was lost, managed to break through the encirclement and retreat toward Narbonne, carrying their mortally wounded commander with them. By the time the dust settled, the battlefield outside Toulouse was strewn with the bodies of thousands of Muslim soldiers. Odo's forces had achieved a decisive and overwhelming victory. Al-Samh, though he escaped with his life initially, succumbed to his wounds soon after reaching Narbonne. This crushing defeat not only ended the immediate threat to Toulouse, but also marked the first major setback for the Umayyad expansion into Europe. Odo's victory would echo through the halls of history as one of the most significant battles of the early Middle Ages. The Battle of Toulouse marked the first major disaster for the Umayyad expansion into Europe. The devastating defeat shook the political landscape in Al-Andalus and halted Muslim raids into Gaul for several years. This catastrophic loss of men, leadership, and momentum brought a temporary end to the ambitious plans of the Caliphate to extend their reach into the heart of Europe. For Duke Odo, this victory was nothing short of monumental. His successful defense of Toulouse earned him widespread acclaim, solidifying his status as an independent ruler in Aquitaine. Even the Pope recognized Odo's triumph, sending him gifts to honor his deeds and strengthen his position. However, despite the glory, Odo's struggle was far from over. The siege of Toulouse was just the beginning of his long and arduous campaign to preserve his independence. In the following years, Odo would face repeated raids and invasions from the Umayyad Caliphate as the Muslims sought to regain their foothold in Gaul. The retreat of the Umayyad forces back to Narbonne was coordinated by one of Al-Samh's leading officers, Abd al-Rahman. 11 years later, in 732, Abd al-Rahman would lead another invasion into Gaul, culminating in the famous Battle of Tours, where he would face both Odo and Charles Martel. But that is a story for another time.
On this channel, we are putting together narrative historical cinematic battles. Make sure to subscribe and thank you for watching. See you on the next one.